Hello, Common Sense people, my Common Sense network. I want to talk about gobbledygookless common sense here about something that is extremely important. I have talked about this topic before under different contexts and different examples, but this is pretty current. And today, this topic is more important, more crucial than ever. Now, in order to absolutely go against this gobbledygook waves, I'm going to start with a very simple but realistic example, okay? And I want you to bear with me because I'm going to get to this point and then we're going to discuss that point at the end and also through the comment section. So here it goes. I want you to think of this family, okay? And they are very, very poor. They have very limited amount of money and they're poor. They're having a hard time. So there is a man and let's say a wife and 2 kids, okay? And the man makes very little money, not enough to feed his family, barely to get by even with the rent. His kids are all malnourished. They're starving, they're hungry. And this man takes that tiny little limited income that he has, anything that is left over from after he pays his housing for his shelter, and while his family is hungry, starving, takes that little money that is left and takes it to his neighbor, 2 houses down the street, and there lives a guy who doesn't work, okay, and is poor, just like this guy, and is hungry, and gives that money to him and say, here, I'm giving it to you, I'm helping you out. And he keeps doing that. And his kids get more starved. They get more malnourished. And his wife starts losing his health. Still, this guy takes his income, whatever is left over, tiny bit, instead of feeding his own family, he takes it and gives it to this guy, a neighbor, 2 houses down. Now, let's add another layer to this story, okay? The neighbor guy, the one that this guy gives his tiny amount of money, the one instead of feeding his own family, this guy takes his money, doesn't go and get some bread or anything. He actually goes and buys lotto tickets or gambles, or maybe gets some joint with it. Why would a guy do that? Why would someone see that his own family, they're dying from starvation? His spouse, his wife is badly in need of medical help. He himself is starving. Yet, take this little tiny money that he has and give it to this guy who goes and spends it on BS. Is it logical? Why would someone do such a thing, right? Now let's go to a real story, a real life picture, a fact that we have had in place for decades. As a country that has over 500,000 homeless people, okay? And over 200,000 of this 500,000 happen to be veterans who have served this country. A country where over 50% of people don't have health insurance, thus access to solid health care because it's so expensive here. A country where with this insane COVID measures, going through some incredible unemployment, crises, businesses that are shutting down, especially mom and pop small businesses. This country, while this is happening to its people, just recently, as recent as 2 or 3 days ago, in its Congress, by people who claim to be the representatives of the people of this country, including all those who are now malnourished, hungry, unemployed, without access to health care, by those representatives. Those representatives of that country in its Congress just allocated $32 billion as handout, charity, aid, financial aid to another country. While it's going through these crises, when we have over 37 million people filing for unemployment, when all the financial forecasters and gobbledygookers are forecasting a depression greater than Great Depression, why would a country with so many unemployed during the crises, okay, with all the homelessness that it has, people that are starving, would take $32 billion when it's never been needed more, okay, and give it to another country as aid? Well, that's what we did, folks. That's what we did. This is not classified. This is not a secret. It just happened. It just happened during this financial crisis due to insane COVID measures. Here it is. I'm just picking one of the mainstream media outlets. As Americans lose their jobs, Senate gears up to give Israel a minimum of $38 billion. Okay? This has been going on for decades. And for those from the left that right now they're going to say, oh my goodness, Sibel is being so anti-Semitic. She went and she pointed to Israel. I'm talking about all the countries. When you combine it, we are handing out every year close to $100 billion, $150 billion to other countries. Pakistan, Egypt, Israel, Azerbaijan, Tajikistan, Kuwait. I'm just throwing Uganda, okay? Oh no, now they're gonna say she's a racist because Uganda is in Africa. African people are black, and Sibel pointing out and saying, oh, we are giving this much aid to this and Tanzania or whatever, that makes me racist in these people's book, okay? So let me preempt them and put it there. I'm just naming everyone. Okay, maybe even Turkey. It hasn't been receiving aid, but probably soon they will because they have been changing their tune. But you understand what I'm talking about. This problem of homelessness of more than 500,000, over 200,000 of this half a million being veterans, homeless, people without health care, people living in below poverty level in certain areas, joblessness. Our country, the United States of America, every year takes this money, and this money is not falling off the sky, okay, guys? These are not some leftover on the sides, everything is good, and oh yeah, we have this thing here, we found it, let's give it out. It's like a lot of money. No, that's your money, that's my money, that's our money, okay? These are our tax dollars, in addition to all the debts that we have. So let's put that aside. And we hand it out to these countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan and Egypt and Israel and you name it, all these countries. This is exactly the same story as that crazy, insane, made-up story I gave you at the beginning. Why would a guy have his own family starve and die from starvation, and go and give his money to some neighbor 2 houses down. Now, I'm gonna add, because in my previous example, the made-up example, I said the guy who took that money spent that money not for food to survive, not for his rent, but he spent it on lotto tickets and joint and six-pack of Budweiser, or you know what I'm talking about. Now, I know when, and I'm gonna say it here, the left talk about these aids that we need to give to these countries. And when that mainstream media, be it CNN or NBC or whatever, showcase these aids that we give, the handouts, because we are doing so good. We have taken care of all our problems. We are doing so good with healthcare and homelessness and unemployment and everything. We have so much extra that we are giving hundreds of billions of dollars every year to these countries. So when they broadcast this, they show hungry kids. You know, their ribs are showing. They are so hungry and starved, and there are flies around their nose, okay? And their face, or some of them, their belly from starvation is popping up, you know, popping out. You know the pictures I'm talking about, whether it's in Egypt or Afghanistan, or it's in Uganda or Tanzania. And make you, or the audience, or the viewers, I don't watch CNN, NBC. I pulled the plug on all that crap in 2004, and I haven't looked back, but millions and billions do. These countries, they give the impression, the mainstream media, that it's going to these starved children. So the taxpayers, you and me and the rest of us, all of us, whose money, hundreds of billions of dollars of it being handed out to these countries, can feel a little bit justified and good and say, oh, that's so sweet and wonderful that we are doing this. We are feeding these starved kids because we are Americans. We are so generous. That's okay. Let us suffer with homelessness. Let us suffer with unemployment. We are feeding the children of the world. BS, that's not happening. The money that goes there is not feeding any of those kids. And I guarantee you, I have been to so many countries. I have covered so many countries' governments. I have spoken with so many people who work for so many different countries' governments who get this money. If you look at some of those starving poor nations and look at their kings or despotic self-declared presidents, you would see that they live in these palaces that are, I would say, easily 15, 20 times the size of White House here in the United States. There are despotic kings and presidents who receive this money in their starving country, their poor, poverty-ridden country. They have these private airplanes where actually the commode where they crap is made out of 24 carats gold brought from Turkey, because they want to shit in 24 karat gold commode. They get this money. That money is not going to the starving, belly-popping babies and the children. It's not going to those people on the wheelchair. No, it's not going. It's not doing any of those good things that you think it's doing. They're either spending it, their 1%, 0.1% on all these luxurious palaces, because they have kings and prince and queens and their queen's cousins and their cousin's nephew, okay? And they feed all of them luxury life. They have accounts in Switzerland. They have accounts in London, you know, Cayman Islands. And the money that goes is a type of a bribery, so they can do whatever crap it is for this war or that war. When the time comes, if the time comes, usually the time comes, so they spend it on that. So it's not going to the starved children. Now you see that? In my made-up story, going to the guy who spent it on BS, luxury, beer and joint, well, this money taken from hard-earned taxpayers' money in a country that infrastructure is collapsing. They haven't been updated, be it the bridges or the tunnels or the dams or the roads. We have some highways in certain parts of our country and I have been traveling around the world, that are as bad, if not worse than the third world countries. Our infrastructure, since, I don't know, since during the recovery after the Great Depression, really hasn't been touched that much because we never have enough money for that. Between the war and giving out to these kings and queens and for their luxury life and for their gold commode, ain't nothing left. Now, those of you with common sense who are following and listening and nodding right now and saying, hell no, this is ridiculous, especially during this time. They are telling you, be prepared, you're gonna suffer. You're gonna suffer because economy has already shrunk and it's gonna shrink more. And so many millions of us are gonna be unemployed. We are going to declare personal bankruptcy because we won't be able to pay our rent or mortgage. There are kids who are gonna be hungry, going to bed hungry. When this is happening, these representatives of the people of this country, giving out this people's money, our money, handing out in billions, tens of billions, to other countries, not to feed any starved children. Now, are these representatives in this Congress representing the American people? What do you think? If not, who the hell are they representing? Now that's the question. With that, I want to thank all my Newsbud community members. I want to thank all my new community members, network, Common Sense People Network at Patreon for making this video, this chat, this connection between myself and you possible. Those of you who wish, who can, who want, please visit Patreon, whether it's by 50 cents, $1, $5, whatever it is you can during this hard time, and I know it's hard time, if you can, and join my Patreon community and make this ongoing video productions, podcast production possible. Thank you all. This is Sibel Edmonds reporting from Florida, and have a wonderful Memorial weekend. Thank you.